pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from our last meeting, November 29th.
You have an extra copy, Jeff? I didn't.
I don't. I did email them to everybody, correct?
It's been busy.
Yeah, I'll just.
No, that's all right, no problem. Well, I used to print everything off, but
Yep.
most everybody, I'll get back in the habit of, like agendas, I'll bring a few extra copies.
Sure, appreciate it.
No biggie.
Mr. Chairman, I propose a motion to accept the minutes from the last meeting.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the minutes of November 29th.
Just comment.
Any discussion, changes?
Yes, under the Collins. There was mentioned, other than Templeton, when we got to that one, that there was 21 other communities that had the advisory appointing somebody else. Should we mention that in the minutes?
I mean, would you like that added, or?
It would be nice if they can see that there was notation that there's other communities other than the one that they found.
Any objections?
No. You just want to add it?
Yep. And
This
what
way
we
we're
said-
here, when somebody looks at our minutes, they'll know that we've done some due diligence
Yep.
other than what the administration has said through Collins, only one community. And that was not the entire list of 351 communities. That was only a partial list, and we found 21.
And the number was 21, correct?
Yes, right, that's the total between the two. There may be more, Lee, I don't know. I just found 21.
So at least.
You got-
Yeah.
nice and fine.
I amend my motion to include the 21 communities as presented just now by Mr. Spring.
Second.
So moved. So,
Okay. I will add that and
That's
send
to
it out
the
immediately
motion.
afterward.
Okay.
Yep.
anything else? Seeing none, hearing none. Mike,
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Deb,
Abstain.
Will?
Yes.
Yes. All right. The next interesting item
Thank you, Jeff.
is the codification process, and we talked about this a little bit. And there's going to be a meeting January, I think it's the 15th.
Yep.
I sent that email out, and town council is gonna be there at that meeting to talk further about this. I watched the workshop meeting from last night, and that's pretty much what they discussed. They had codification, but they talked about that. But with regards to, and I know we want to put the Collins, but the Collins memo specifically, it states that it was asked to look at the Templeton bylaw and propose some changes, and it mentioned that, you know, we're the only town that does it this way, and a few other things. And then we have the codification process, which the town hired a company to look through all of our bylaws and see if we had, because it's a hodgepodge and it's just been added, and had not been done really efficiently. I mean, you go to town meeting and we change a bylaw, and as we see happened with who prepares the budget, it was not really follow through. It's just like, here's the bylaw, and it gets sent to the Attorney General's office, and I questioned them on this. I sent an email and I spoke with a lady over the telephone, that all they do is, they don't go through our bylaws and say, well, you just voted this and you already have it sort of saying over. They just look what you send them. Is it legal? Does it match up with Mass General Law right now? And they say yes or no.
Right.
And it gets approved into our bylaws. So this codification process, and again, there's a meeting, I believe it's January 15th. It's gonna be here, and town council will be at that meeting.
January?
It's in January, yes. There's a December 12th meeting for Royalston Road, then there's one in January. There's one at the end of January, I think the 29th, about, I'll address that on my comments, but it's about town meeting. But this process was to look at our bylaws and see if they said anything that conflicted with Mass General Law as a bylaw a general law been repealed, so this bylaw, can no longer. And with regards to our committee, they looked at ours, and it states, this article establishes the above committee advisory and appears to be sufficient as written. Further in here, there's another thing that may affect us, and it has to do with the posting of town meeting and our required by law pre-town meeting. And our current bylaw says that we have to advertise that in the paper. And there's some reference here, they suggest adding, and by posting on the town website. In other words, give notice to the people on the town's website that we're having a pre-town meeting, blah, blah, blah. There's a notation in here, and I don't know who read it, who wrote it. Why not a general requirement to post all on the town website? Which would be an efficient use of our website. Hopefully, when it gets redone, it'll be cleaner and more organized and easier to find stuff, and more things included in it.
Just as a note, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
in 2016, the chairman at that time did put the notifications up on the town website. Since he's gone and we have lost that ability to put them on the website,
Well, it seems like they want to do that. And now, I said, like, when they're rebuilding the website, hopefully, we will get access to our page, has been talked about, and said that we would have that ability through the town administrator. And this will probably be discussed further at those meetings. I know there's at least one, I think they're planning another one before this year's annual town meeting. Another interesting suggestion, item is the budget preparation, and it talks about the section of the advisory committee, and it also talks about the administrator and selectmen are responsible for preparing the annual budget. Does this authority in any way conflict with the advisory committee's duties as stated in section blah blah? The box is checked, make no changes. Again, I don't know who did this, if the company made the notations, and then it was reviewed. I watched last night's meeting, and one selectman asked if they could have a copy of this, if there were extra copies of it. And the town administrator said, well, it's 300 pages. But I obtained it because I requested it, and I paid for it.
Just a notation, Mr. Chairman. We voted at one of our meetings that you were not here, that they should, that the administrator should supply the advisory copy. I know that you went and got your own copy.
If anybody wants one, and I'm in the process of attempting to do this, well, I have a CD, and it's this on a CD. It's in PDF. It's like 4.5 megabytes. Yeah. So I could either send the file, or I could just put it on thumb drives. And anybody who wants one, Merry Christmas. Tony's looking like he's
Send the file.
Yeah, just send, if you can send the
Yeah.
file.
I can do that.
Thank you.
Well, the thing with this, we're going to have to review this when it comes to town meeting.
If,
And if you don't know what's in it
No.
and haven't reviewed it,
the other,
it's hard to vote on it.
the
Well,
other
I find it
interesting,
stunning that they paid how much for this and it didn't come in an electronic format.
well, it must have come electronically somehow, or, because I requested it electronically, and I got the paper copy, and I got a CD
Okay,
with this on it. So
okay.
I'm with you on that. You would think in this day and age, it would have been boom, but
Why'd you have to pay for it?
I requested the paper copy. Well, maybe they made a paper copy to charge me, I don't know. I'm just glad, I like it on paper, but I have it both ways, and I can send it. It's a PDF file, I'll just save it to my desktop and then attach it. You can all have that. The other interesting item in here is all the general laws and special acts that the town has accepted over the years. Back to 1896, 1912, 1914, well, like workers' comp and stuff like that, and up through the years. And some of these mass general laws are notated in here. Some sections have been repealed, so they recommend changes to this. I just thought the interesting part was the advisory bylaw as it reads now, and the question on the conflict of our current Article 3, Section 4, and Article 4, Section 4, about creating the budget and stuff, and they leave as it is, and that, to me, just, but I believe we're gonna try to take care of that on the 20th. So with regards, the Collins memo was, I take it as they were asked to look specifically at the advisory committee's bylaw and compare it and propose changes to give to the town administrator, the board of selectmen, to bring to town meeting. The codification process was to look at all of the bylaws. What will become of this, I don't know. I know that the animal control bylaw was recently just changed, and that was in here, and part of that mass general law that covers that had been repealed, so that made sense. Maybe that was just an easy one, I don't know. But if you want it, I will send it to you electronically, and you can do with it what you want.
Question, at last night's meeting, did they end up discussing how this was gonna be presented to the town?
Yeah, they're gonna have a meeting, several meetings.
No, I mean, at the annual town
They
meeting.
did not discuss if it was how, or with, or what the approach is going to be. They're just gonna have these informational meetings, and I would say that's where you would find that information out. And the first one is January 15th. I believe it's 6:30
It is,
here.
yeah.
In this
reading
room.
the
So, that would be a meeting to attend or watch. So I hope that just clears up, the difference between Collins and what Collins did and what this codification process did. It did, and they're gonna rearrange the bylaws in different order, and they're gonna have chapters instead of sections, and they will be, from what I see in here, it is cleaner, and there are a lot of little changes, and there's a few head scratches, but And this was paid for with the town budget, and the Collins work was paid for with a grant. I mean, it's all taxpayer money, but, and that'll, you can have your Christmas reading. But just to clear up, that was just, I put that on just for discussion and to clear up that they were different approaches by different entities for different reasons. Anybody have any questions or? Okay, let's see.
Well, we'll be discussing that on the 20th anyway.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Well, it's our bylaw,
Yes.
not necessarily this, but the advisory bylaw. Also, at the last, so if anybody has anything else on codification, the next item is the payroll service change. And we discussed that at the last meeting, and there were several questions that came up. I emailed this to everyone. And the first answer was, there is no, according to this, there is no specific contract with Harper's, so there will not be a penalty. It says to date, we have paid Harper's $3,500, and there's another, I like this, 2,000 or so to get through the last of the payrolls and do the W-2s for the tax season. This will leave roughly 6.6 thousand to go towards the paychecks fees. And it says the accountant, she will have to find the monies in her supply or personnel accounts, and that will lead to, should lead to a transfer request at some point in time. And in the next fiscal year 2020 budget, there will be an increase in the accountants to pay to cover all of that. As for the cost of the tablets, it says 4 tablets was around $1,000, so the 1,000 was for a group of tablets. And I think the sewer department is gonna pay for theirs out of user fees. And it states that either the town accountant's budget, the user departments, which was Amy's question about if it was gonna come out of the department's budget, or the IT budget.
Question, does that mean the other enterprises will be also having their own tablets?
It does not say, it says 4 tablets. I believe, I strongly believe that Light and Water will not be in on this thing. They will be,
So that means they're gonna be doing paper copies, Mr. Chairman?
I have no idea. I'm assuming. I'm going by what is here. And I expect that process to stay the same with regards to Light and Water.
And the police station too has their own accounting. Are they gonna do paper copies also?
Let's see.
Will, what was your question? I mean, the it sounds like they've got a plan to use the tablets, but if someone doesn't pay for it, they don't revert to paper.
What, he's
That's
got
not
one
how I'm
enterprise
reading
system that's paying for a tablet. The question that I had was, are they gonna, as the other enterprise system, the water and the light, and also the police station, gonna end up doing, having tablets, or are they gonna end up doing paper like they are
I read
today?
this as tablets, and if they're not paying it for themselves, then she's paying it out of her budget.
Yeah, the police department is not an enterprise fund.
Correct.
Anyway.
Well, each of those has their own accountant, and they end up doing their own stuff for payroll and setting that up and sending it in. That's why I'm asking. This is a system that's totally away from theirs. Now, we
Training
got,
is included
we got
with it.
different systems everywhere else, and it's coming in, but we got 4 tablets that are gonna be in this building in the sewerage. I
that's-
assume,
I think
Basically,
the
if you
4
have
tablets are
employees,
initial
this is how
rollout.
they're gonna process it.
Yeah,
I assume that the highway department's gonna have one, the sewerage is gonna have one,
Yep.
and there'll be 2
Yep.
tablets inside this building.
well, I think you could eventually see more, I think that's how they're gonna roll it out, is how I understood it. That this is the initial iteration
Yes.
of what they're gonna do. There may end up being some more tablets. I would
It sounds
expect,
like
if
it's
there
app-
are, I would
it's
expect to see
app-based.
that in their budget.
Yeah, it's app-based.
Yeah. I don't,
Anyway, I believe this answers all of the
Yep.
questions that we had with regard to the cost and the transfer,
Yeah.
whether there was a penalty or anything like that.
Yeah, I appreciate Carter taking the time to write, I mean,
Yeah,
it was a
you-
pretty
it's-
lengthy email.
I relayed that to him. It was pretty quick. I think I would've got it sooner, but they were in the process of doing that Office 365. and
Yeah.
Apparently there was something with the email, cause I kept looking and there was nothing in our email, and then I couldn't get to advisory email. And I asked Holly about it, and she's email crossed paths, and
Yeah,
she had to reset the password, because they were having some issues with the transfer.
uh-huh.
But that is straight, so I can get in there, and, like I said, Carter sent this to my personal email account, and then it got sent to the advisory's email account, he sent it there today, the same email, but, he got it to me in 2 different emails,
it's,
and it was pretty detailed, and it covered another subject that I had asked about,
Right.
myself. So it was pretty detailed and it was pretty quick.
yep,
And I conveyed that to him, that it was appreciated, that it wasn't some long-drawn 2-sentence reply. And I believe that covers all the questions that came up with regard to the cost and affecting budgets and so forth. So, I just wanted to get that cleared up,
Mhm.
and, people watch this meeting and stuff, so they,
no, I mean, a lot of good information quickly, so.
so. And it's all gonna be budgeted for in this budget cycle coming up, so, I believe that covers that. Anything else with regards to the payroll switch over?
Nope.
All right. The next item is the budget meeting schedule. And again, I watched the meeting last night, and it came up that, this committee came up, and they were talking about nights, days, how many days, blah, blah, blah. And Carter pointed out that we had recommended that we'd like to do it, or try it on one day, so
Right.
that's what they're going with.
That's a Saturday, correct?
It is.
Yep.
It's a Saturday, March 9th, and a snow date, alrighty, March 16th. It starts at 8:30. It has gone to 3:45, but, it could be over a little quicker, it could go a little longer. There is a weeknight hearing, and I believe it's gonna be on March 27th, excuse me,
No.
March 20th. And they're gonna try to get the schools, Monty Tech and Narragansett. And then if there's questions, or, you read it over and say, well, dang, I missed that, and you wanna ask about it, we'll be on that date with a snow date of Tuesday, March 26th. And last year we had a couple of snow days. And they're also, the Narragansett School District is having a finance meeting. It's they're not doing the subcommittees this year, they're just it'll be pretty much the whole school committee. They've had one already, they plan on having another one, and they're already talking about discussing the things of, the costs for the new school, which would be in their fiscal 20-year budget for like utilities, electricity and oil. I'm gonna try to get over and make, a couple of those meetings. But, Saturday will be that will be a interesting day.
Couple of questions, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Have we received the budget input documents yet
The what
For-
now?
for us? They were sent out, my understanding is they were sent out to the departments already.
As far as. what
For-
do-
For our budget. They're gonna be due January. and
They're
then
due
further-
January 2nd,
Right,
and we are separate. Like when I think last year they had us listed under some group, but this year, according to his email, is we'll submit something as a standalone. And
I understand it, but I'm talking about the actual documents for, on each of the categories. Have we received those so we can input those information? They're gonna be expecting some information from us.
they have sent those out, and I believe I forwarded that, and that's, I'll send out last year's numbers to everybody, and we have money left, and I don't even see us spending it, as a basis on what to ask for this year. And I was going to add that to the 20th, simply because, and I don't know why they're asking for the information this year so early, but
Just,
be that as it may.
just as a comment, it's nice that they can end up having it on one day. But if you look at a majority of the communities that end up having finance committees, they do a separate look at the budgets with the departments rather than with the selectmen. Their objectives are different than ours in looking at the budget and making recommendations. So I'm kind of wondering as to if we're gonna end up doing something separately or not.
We have our own meetings, where we can, where we did in the past, where we can meet and talk, and if we have any questions, we can send them to departments, we can send them to the town administrator, to get ready for, pre-town meeting,
Yep.
where we'd make our formal recommendations and our report to annual town meeting.
Any of the input documents from all the other departments gonna be available to us before this meeting? So that we can end up scheduling some stuff or asking questions? Or is it all done on that day?
As far as departments coming in and discussing their budgets,
Right.
it's on that day.
So we were not gonna be able to see their budget until that day? I don't understand. We
It's-
should be able to take and see their budget before, and if we have questions when they're making the presentation, is ask those questions.
Well, that's why they have a follow-up meeting scheduled for any question and answer or revisits if needed. So if you have, like I said, I just said, if you sit there at the meeting, as I did last year, I sat there, I forget what department it was, they made their presentation, we asked questions, the members of who were there asked some questions about each department, and then I got home and I was reading something, and I went, huh. So at the next meeting, I relayed those questions.
So I think,
And I emailed it actually to the department head, and I got a response back, and I brought that to the committee.
so I think Will, if I may expound on
Yes.
what you're saying is, they submit a budget to the town administrator prior to the meeting. Will we get copies of those prior to the meeting? Their submission to the TA and the select board, can we request copies of them prior?
I will send that to him.
That's what I was
Yeah,
basically,
I thought so. I just don't think it came across that way, but I knew what you're asking. So this way, we have a little we can take a look at what they're requesting prior to the meeting. Instead of trying to digest it, listen to them, and ask questions all at the same time.
March, what date is that? Also, last night, watching last night's meeting, there was, Monty Tech brought up, and if, if they were coming, and if anybody had attended, and apparently nobody from the select board. Then there was discussion that, the town's supposed to have a representative to go to those meetings. I can't remember, one of the selectmen had volunteered, and I can't remember who it is. But Curtis was gonna follow up on that and track down they designated someone to go to the Monty Tech budget meetings, finance meetings, to report back to the select board, instead of, like us or them, all the board of selectmen. I'm going, to Monty Tech's meetings. They will send us, and actually, I'm surprised we haven't gotten it yet, but I expect we'll see it in January, since they said they were gonna, Monty Tech said they were gonna send their budget out earlier, but they will send to the advisory committee, their proposed school budget. So we'll look at that before these meetings.
do you know if the,
Narragansett will, I think they had said at that joint meeting that Amy and I went to, that superintendent said they were gonna try to get it out a little earlier this year, but I don't expect to see it until March. They have till March 30th by law.
do you know if the Narragansett district will be coming to our meeting and presenting their budget like they have in past years?
I'm sure, if I request, if the committee requests Dr. Casavant to come, he will come.
No, he's actually asked to be on, in past years to be on.
And he will bring their budget outline, that separate booklet. They've 17 and 18 and 19 they have done. So, and like I said, they will be at that March 20th meeting. So I'm assuming that's about when they're gonna have their budget ready. Because they usually vote on it the last week in March, and we get it on the 30th. But it's not a lot earlier, but it's a week or two earlier. I'm sure he'd be, once their budget is ready, he's usually pretty cool about coming in. I will email, the school, and ask for that electronically to all members. We have asked for the individual departments' raw budgets in the past, and we didn't get them. But,
Only since the last couple of years, previous to that, we used to.
so, I'll send that to Carter. I will touch base with Dr. Casavan. And, he's really good about, he'll send those out as soon as he can electronically, and he'll come if we ask him. Even a couple members of the school committee will show up. Rayanne Truflo, she usually comes if Dr. Casavan comes. So Saturday will be, we asked for it, and we try it for one, maybe it'll go well. But we can always go back to, 3 or 4 long meetings. Anyone else have anything else on those budgets, or?
Do we meet 3 times a month is there like a bylaw what sets us up to meet 3 times a month?
There's a couple of
'Cause
months.
I thought we were the first or the third.
There's a couple of months that have another
An extra,
Wednesday,
right,
another
right.
Thursday in it. So sometimes we have met and sometimes
That's once
we
a
have
quarter,
not.
basically, that happens.
Yeah.
Every once in a while. I mean,
Some other communities, especially during budget season, meet much more often
Right.
than a couple times a month. They may end up meeting for a week or 2, just about every night.
Yeah. I mean, for discussion, if we have something, if we agree on the first and third, if we're meeting on the third, if we have a agenda that warrants it, kind of like how we're stacking the 20th, I would say we'd go for that third meeting. Otherwise, that's a tax. That's taxing to try and come to that. And just
They said
sharing with the group.
sometimes, I mean, there's
And that's
nothing on it.
fine. If we have an agenda that supports it, then I'm all for it. But, the way that you say, sometimes yes, sometimes no, I would say, unless the work is there, let's not.
It won't fall, and during December, there won't be a third week, because
Yeah, no problem. I'm talking
It'd be
about just the
every
ones
2
where
weeks.
we are.
that'll be 14 days from the 20th to the 34th, which actually is our January meeting.
Yeah.
So,
But you know what I mean.
Well,
I don't want to meet 3 times a month if we don't have to.
Well, I mean, if we're scheduled, if our rules say the first and third, why are you meeting the 5th if there is one?
Correct.
That's kind of what he's saying. I mean, obviously during budget season, there might be a need, but
Right.
I think what you're kind of saying is we could have, what we did last week, we could have piled all into this week.
Yeah.
Extra Thursday.
so I want to
in
request,
January.
see, we can get the raw budgets from each department and touch base with Narragansett about getting their budget and having Dr. Casavan come to one of our meetings. And it, like I said, it probably won't be till March, but I'll see what, I'll email Susan, and she's good about getting back, Sue Varney.
Oh, Mr. Chair, I've got, I sit on the capital planning. I was traveling on Tuesday, so I wasn't able to meet the last of the department meetings, which is actually the biggest one, the DPW. And the emergency management did get in there. I haven't watched it on YouTube yet, but I've seen some of the comments, public comments on it. I can tell you that we're ready to go with determination in the analysis based on all the information that the departments gave us. So basically just wanted to report back to everybody what's going on with capital planning.
And there's the disposal, Ballinville Elementary's disposal committee meeting, is there one coming up?
Yeah, on the 20th.
Okay. And that's, make condos out of it or make a parking lot?
We're
right.
getting ready to put a RFI out, request for interest. We have a draft, we're working on the draft. There is, the veterans agent came about 2 months ago. She's gone out and checked. There's a lot of interest with some veterans to make it veterans housing. So obviously, we're going to look at that. But still, I think we're still charged to do what's best for the town with the facility.
Does Winchendon have some veteran housing?
Not sure.
They might have at some point. When I was a resident, I remember that there was an old municipal building that I think housed homeless vets. Maybe I send Sheila an email or something and ask that question to say, have you touched base with Winchendon?
She's touched
Okay,
base with a
okay.
lot of different
Okay.
people.
Yeah,
So,
that's great.
Yeah.
I think that's an excellent idea.
well, I do too, for obvious reasons, but
Yeah.
we still, what's best for the town.
Mm-hmm.
I started to watch the capital planning, and I saw the EMD making a presentation, but I didn't get to finish it, so I'll probably watch that. I don't know, maybe tonight.
Yeah, I've got to pick up my packet from across the hall here.
So, that's the last thing on the agenda. Does anyone have anything they would like to say, put out information?
He's not smiling, but I know he's got something.
I have a question. We, last meeting, we ended up making a motion to end up inviting the moderator. Has he accepted our invitation to meet with us and having a discussion, or?
I believe we were gonna do that after we get our bylaw items straight,
That's true.
before we did that.
The minutes.
And again, it's January 29th.
I think he would be
6:30
amendable.
Here, the town clerk, the moderator, and I think the town administrator, and the subject is how to get interest, how to do things to make town meeting better, get people coming to it.
When is that?
29th.
Okay.
January
29th, I
29th.
believe.
At 6:30
I think here,
in this room, I think.
Okay.
so,
I spoke with a couple people that ended the special town meeting, and they were highly upset that there was no reading of some of the warrants.
Yeah, that was discussed at the all boards meeting as well. We did go into that. I know that one hasn't hit YouTube yet. I know it's gonna be coming out, but there was a substantial discussion about that, about frustrations, some ideas on how to do that, so, more to follow.
right. Yeah, well, even in town meeting times, which is our guidebook for a
Right.
town meeting.
That's why
it
I think
says
he would come and talk with
if
us.
the
Yeah.
warrant is, if you're not gonna read the article, then it says that
Right,
the warrant should be in the hands of the voters.
Yep.
If you're gonna pass, not read an article. And
Yeah.
I can understand it's
Mhm.
5 pages long, but
Yeah.
however, hey,
The reason-
it is what it is. I read some long articles.
yeah.
It's just,
The reason I brought it up is the individual basically said they were at the special town meeting, they were so frustrated, they don't intend to end up coming to our town government because of the way that the voters were treated. I mean, basically, that's what they said.
But they do.
Why
they
go,
do
why
have-
go there if I can't end up seeing the warrant being read and I have no notification beforehand? I might as well not go.
Do they
I
not
mean,
have the
that's-
right to get up and make a motion to have the entire warrant, or the entire article read?
if they make
No.
enough yes, voters
they
can ask for that.
But what happened at
Make a
the
motion- Make a
meeting,
motion to vote for it.
but what happened at the meeting was the very first thing on the floor was to make a motion that none of the warrant articles would be read in their entirety, and there was an abbreviated version printed and on the screen, as well as the complete version was printed and in everyone's hands in a booklet. And when that first motion went through, none of the other ones were read after, and it was explained by the moderator at the time, it was simply in the interest of time, with the number of articles that they had, to try and keep everything sort of moving forward and not be there for 6 or 7 or 8 hours simply to read things aloud when they were in everyone's hand.
Somebody did stand up and request, that things be made, but the rest of the town meeting has to go with that.
Right.
Has to make, it's their meeting, they gotta make the noise
Yes.
and say, hey, Mr. Moderator, this is what we
Was there
want.
a lot of discussion about that by these people? Was there discussion when they made the motion to not read it, or they said they weren't going to, did these people get up and stand up and say, no, wait a minute, I want everything read?
No, there
Think
was,
at that time,
there
no.
was not a
So-
lot of, it's,
No.
and that's what I mean, people need to realize and understand that town meeting, it's their meeting.
Yep.
And if
Right.
you want something or you're not happy, we'll stand up and let it be known. Tell the moderator, Mr. Moderator, blah, 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 blah.
But attend
You
these
have a
early meetings
responsibility.
too, so that you can know what's gonna happen, and so that you're a little bit more comfortable if you're
Yep.
someone who doesn't enjoy speaking in public.
You have to take the time
And you have to stand up and
to go
wait
to,
your turn,
to
follow
go to these other
procedure. Yep,
meetings and go find the warrant and go ask the selectmen and somebody's not gonna do it for you.
right.
It's.
Cause it was there, the warrant was online.
Right, the
when it was
warrant should,
supposed to be.
in my opinion, the warrant should be at town meeting.
It was.
should be there.
There were booklets there, right? Isn't that?
That's the voter's guide, and that's not the actual warrant that was posted.
Okay,
I mean, it's up to the people. If they want the thing read, then they gotta stomp their feet.
can't
and
they
make
get a
it
copy
known.
here though? By that, like, end date, whatever, however many days
They can come
before?
down and
I think
ask
they
for
can
a
come down
copy,
and
you
just
know.
get one if they're, when the
if
town's
you
open, yeah.
A lot of
But-
communities make it
Also on the website.
available on their website,
Ours
or
does.
copies available
Right, well,
beforehand.
it was on the website,
Yeah, see.
for sure it was, cause I read it.
Then again, not everybody has web access,
Yeah.
so.
Right, I
But
mean,
they
this
used to bring
individual
them-
didn't have.
The warrant was always brought to town meeting and was there, and people get used to that, and then they get there and they kinda look around like, oh, well, let me go in here. But again, it's your meeting, you gotta stand up, and if you're not happy, then tell them.
Right,
And if one person gets up and you're sitting there going, I kinda like to hear it, well, then stand up and say so. And that's the only way it's
Oh, I
gonna
started doing
change or get better. If you don't like it,
right, cause
What are
if
you
you're,
gonna do?
if
Go
you're
home
thinking
and-
it, chances are someone else in
Else
the
is
room is
thinking it?
too.
and if you go home and say, "Hey, I'm not going anymore," well, then you've just allowed it to happen.
Yep,
It's, you have to take part, you have to take a little responsibility, for what you have. It's
Funny that
it's
you're
your
saying this,
meeting.
because I had the same discussion with that individual. Did you speak up? And I says, if people don't speak up, things happen. People are responsible for town government. If they don't speak up about town government, because I had an earful about a lot of things other than town government by this individual.
So, you gotta speak up. Anything else? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
second.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone wish to stay?